Nice to see you again.
Hey, what's up?
Well, well, not much really. Not much really. Where we last left off. Well, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know about again, I am so sorry that the last one got corrupted. Really. I I had not expected that to happen.
Hey, that's fine. And just to prepare, I'm actually recording my end with Audacity. So just in case if anything happens on your end, I'll be sending you my file.
Sure. That is so cool. I never thought you could
Yeah.
actually do that. I mean,
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, it only records my end, like it won't pick up your audio, but yeah.
okay. Okay. Um, so my my next question, starting from where we left off on month, start where we left off the first time we met, is how do you approach character design in general role, and how did you approach it for the pilot?
Well, a good rule of thumb in character design is to look for inspiration and, determine the different body shapes and proportions of each character because you don't want to have the entire cast to look the same, right? You want some kind of variety. So when I designed Detective Cat and Ashley, you know, went for the classic, tall guy, short person dynamic because it makes for a good visual foil. And and as for the pilot, I wanted the visual language to be based on classic cartoons like Tex Avery and Chuck Jones, and even 90s cartoons like Animaniacs and Darkwing Duck.
Very interesting. What was the process for casting the actors in the pilot?
I used castingcall.club to uh, put a casting call for both Detective and Foxy, and I ended up getting Kieran Flitton and Elsie Lovelock, respectively. As for Dr. Charlie Horse and Ashley, I personally approached Ray Harrell and Tony Goldmark.
Okay. What animation software did you use for the pilot?
I use both Adobe Animate and Toon Boom.
Both Toon Boom. And it was like the paid license, right?
Yeah,
For paid license for Toon Boom, right?
yeah.
So, next question is the series fully hand drawn, or are there elements of 2D rigging alongside the hand drawn animation?
It is fully animated like a classic Disney movie, but it does have a few rigged elements to kind of streamline the process, but only very rarely.
Hmm. So, like, what would an example of that look like?
I don't know, maybe like like maybe an object being carried or something that has a lot of angles to it, just to save myself the stress of free drawing and animating. Or it could be like, a special effect like an explosion or a giant monster or something or a robot.
Man, you know, you know, I really want to know if the thing was rigged. I mean, if the thing was fully hand drawn. But it's not a slight on people who are riggers, or just 2D rigging as an animation technique. Because like most techniques in the whole medium of animation, there is a lot of effort put into it. I ha- I have to be honest, I do have a preference between hand drawn over rigged, because unlike rigged, you have more freedom, and you have more fluidity. But again, I'm not trying to slight rigged stuff, because have been some really good projects that have been that 2D rigging, like stuff from Titmouse. You got your Motor Cities, your Mau Mau's, your I think Turbofast is rigged. Maybe I mean it looks rigged, but yeah, those are some examples those of
Yeah,
stuff that's
it,
rigged.
yeah, I agree. We've kind of come a long way from the days of Happy Tree Friends and Mucha Lucha. And while they were revolutionary for their time, I really appreciate how animators have rewrote the codes for these programs to kind of emulate classic 2D, like My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, and Tangled, the series, and I think there's like a new Jesus cartoon that's coming out called The Light of the World, and it looks like kind of a mix of classic 2D with 2D rigs, and sometimes you can barely tell the difference, and that really shows how far we've come in technology.
I know, right? I mean, I originally thought that common side effects was fully rigged. Well, actually, no, I didn't think it was fully rigged, but I thought it was rigged. But turns out there's some rigged elements, but it's mostly hand drawn according to one of the animators I spoke with.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
dude, that show was amazing.
yeah, too amazing. And it's already getting a second season.
And a
And
third, yeah.
third?
Yeah, I think they ordered a third.
Well, from what I remember, it was ordered for a second season.
Okay. But
But yeah,
regardless, this show is doing gangbusters, and I'm glad that we're going to get more out of it because, this is the kind of American animation that I really wanted to see for a long time.
yeah, it's it's really great that it's actually getting it's actually getting the attention it deserves. Not only that, it's actually getting the support that it really deserves from the network. And
Yeah.
here's to hoping that Invincible Fight Girl gets renewed, which is also on Adult Swim, but just happened to be produced by Cartoon Network Studios and not William Streets. I don't
Yeah. We'll
know,
see.
but I digress. So, my next question is, what was a typical day like working on the pilot?
Well, when the pilot was fully in production, of course, now we're in kind of a hiatus due to budget reasons, but usually I would work on my portion of the pilot, like animate a shot or clean up a shot, and I would go to my Discord group and I would check on my animators and I would look at their shots and give them notes and, just kind of assign new shots for some of them.
So that's so basically you were oh right. You were 49% done. I forgot about that part.
Right.
You were
And there's about yeah.
so how many people were working on the pilot up until like things start to slow down, and how many are working on it now?
It started at like 5 to 10, but when I got my budget, it kind of grew to 28 almost. And they're still in the group. By the way, I Discord group anyway. But I haven't really hired any more since then, due to budget reasons. I mean, that's just kind of the case for indie productions.
And if I remember correctly, there's a $40,000 goal, but only 2,845 has been reached.
Yeah, we used Indiegogo, and I was only able to raise that much, and I ever since then I used it all up, and I'm trying to find ways to not only build a sustainable income for myself, but to gain more influence. So it's going to be a while.
How long is the pilot expected to be? Like, what is the length? What is it like, say, your typical 11-minute Cartoon Network episode or 22 minutes long?
It's about 18 minutes.
18. Dang. Okay, my next question is, what is Detective Cat's real name?
Uh, that's a good question. I don't know. In fact, um, that's a mystery in and of itself. Like, this could be one of those fun things, like how on SpongeBob, Plankton tries to get the Krabby Patty formula and it comes close to showing you what it is, but it never reveals it.
Or like Kif's name in Kif, at least so far. It's currently in its second season.
Yeah. Like Detective Cat isn't just a title for him. It like he basically came up with that name for himself because he's so much in love with his job.
All right. And and how long does the lineage go of his family in terms of their profession as detectives? Because I know that detectives have been running, it runs in the family, but how long has it gone on?
That's just something you're gonna have to find out much later because that's another mysterious element of the story.
All right. My next question is, how do you manage multiple people at once working on a pilot?
Um, we work in Discord, and whenever I'm not in front of my computer, I'm on the road or I'm running errands, and I have my iPhone with me, and I have the app on my phone as well, and I would just check on them and message them, see how they're doing, look at their progress. And sometimes, I'm not, responding to everybody in the same day. Like sometimes they'll be busy doing their stuff while everybody else is asking me, "Hey, do you have a new shot for me? Or can you tell me how to improve this?" I would like, work with a select group of people depending on the time of day or, the availability.
And if I remember correctly, there were 26-ish people working. And, and is it all remote work?
Yes.
Hmm. That'd be
It's
very
all,
interesting.
yeah, it's all cloud-based.
Cloud based. I actually wonder how I actually wonder how I can do something like that. I mean, because
Um,
uh, n-
um,
n-
basically, get a Discord and start a project and I don't know, like find somebody and yeah.
all right. My next question is, what can we expect from DC's relationship with Ashley? I asked this considering what we have seen so far. It looks like I'm not trying to slight the writing, and I am certainly not trying to bash anything. I really hope to God I am not sounding condescending,
Oh
but
no, no, you're fine.
what I'm trying to say is, judging from the way that DC has treated it Ashley, such as, it looks like he takes her for granted, kind of it looks like he can be a douche to her. That's just my interpretation.
I mean, yeah, like he doesn't exactly understand basic social cues, and sometimes he would, drag Ashley under the bus, metaphorically, but even though that's not his intention, the whole relationship is kind of a classic Sherlock and Watson dynamic, and they're really more friends, like kind of a brother and sister sort of thing. So
Brother and sister.
don't expect any kind of pairing between the two.
Herring? Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, no romance or anything like that. In fact,
Oh,
they have
that's
their
not what I was thinking. I mean, considering that they're already paired up as friends, I.
yeah.
You want to know something crazy? I never would have thought that Ashley was a dog. I mean, because when I first saw her, I couldn't really tell that she was one.
Yeah, I wanted to be a little more ambiguous with her design, kind of like how in Goofy Movie where you have a whole universe of dog people and sometimes it's very apparent that they are dog people, but there's like more subtle designs like with Roxanne, you can just see her as a regular teenager with a dog nose, but she could literally be any kind of animal. Like she could have been a prairie dog or a squirrel or a mole. But with Ashley, yeah, she's a dog.
Okay, what kind of what kind of breed is she, and what kind of breed is Detective Cat?
Oh gosh. I mean, I didn't really have a breed in mind. She's just kind of a generic dog like you see in a lot of cartoons. And the same goes with Detective. I mean, he is technically a tabby, but given his height, you could say he's a Savannah cat. They're those really tall ones. Except they usually have a lot of spots, and Detective doesn't have spots.
When you
So
say like, no, no, continue.
he's basically just a tall cat.
When you say like Savannah, do you mean like the Savannah in Africa or Savannah H with an H?
With an H, I think.
Savannah with an H.
I don't know, but I mean, there's a lot of examples you can find on Google, but they're almost as big as dogs.
Savannah cat. Okay, Savannah cat. Yeah, I have never heard of this thing. Never.
Yeah.
That is news to me. So on a scale of like how tall would DC be? Like is he like the size of an average adult, or is he like taller than that, like maybe in the 6 feet or something? I just the question.
He's 6 feet.
Dang, 6 feet. And he's in his like
Yeah.
and is he in, and I know he's in his 20s, but like is how exactly old is he? I know that Ashley's a freshman, college freshman.
He's about 25.
25. And oh yeah, there's also Foxy Fatale. I guess I should also ask about her age. And I guess what was the hippo's name again?
Oh, Hippo.
Dr. Charlie
Oh,
Horse.
oh, he's a horse. Yeah, both those characters are in the 30s.
30s.
Yeah,
Wow,
Foxy is 30, and I think Charlie Horse is 38.
man. All right. Who is your favorite character in the world of DC?
Ash.
Ash?
Yeah, I think Ashley is my favorite. There's a lot about her that I don't plan to reveal just yet, but it kind of stems from my experiences, and I just think she's, you know, a good conduit to this, crazy world for people who want to get into this. And she's very sweet, but she's also very tough, and she can be dry and sarcastic, and um, yeah, and she's also very cute.
My next question is, what was the process of making Foxy Fatale's song?
I basically played around with my synthetic keyboard and hummed a melody and recorded it, and then I sent it to my composer, Michael, to fine tune it, no pun intended.
Synthetic keyboard.
Yeah, you know, those keyboards that you get at the music store and they play them at concerts and you can keep one as a hobby.
Well, I always knew they were called keyboards. Think there were they I didn't think there were like specific kinds of keyboards because well, I know that keyboards are different than pianos, but I didn't think there were like specific kinds of keyboards. Then again, there's like then again there's one then again there are ones with the pads, the little square pads that you would see on Novation launch pads.
Yeah.
And my next question in terms of music is what was the process of making the theme song? I know it originated from the SCAD shorts.
Yeah. It was basically kind of a similar process to how I wrote the Foxy song was I came up with a melody and I worked with Michael and I wrote the lyrics. I wrote the lyrics for both of the songs. But there is a subtle difference between the song in the pilot and one in the short film is that the tempo is a lot faster and there's like a few lyrical changes. Like originally he says he's got style, he's got class.
Class, he will kick you in the face.
Yeah, but in the new version he's like he's got style and pizzazz and a magnifying glass. Watch out or he'll kick your face. Just I mean, I knew I had to throw in some kind of funny tee-hee double entendre in there. It made me think of that scene from Shrek where they go to Dulox and they play that little small world puppet show, and he goes, "Please keep off of the grass, shine your shoes,
She
wipe
was
your
like your
face."
face. Yeah,
Yeah, cute stuff.
very. Well, I don't. Okay, well, it's good. I never mind. Never mind. Uh, Okay, okay. My next question is, will DC be autistic in the pilot?
Yes, he is. In fact, I'd say 98% of my characters in the show are autistic in some form, degree or another. I based both detectives and Ashley's traits on my experience. I can be loud, I can be over the top, I have sensory issues, and I can be obsessive.
Very interesting. Would that apply to Foxy Fatale and Dr. Charlie Horse as well?
Yeah. Foxy, she now I feel like with Foxy, you can, open that up to interpretation, and I'm sure some people can see themselves in her the same way I see myself in Detective. But in the case of Foxy, she's obsessed with stealing and she's up, she loves Broadway, she has her own Broadway styled song and she's very loud, she's very expressive.
Hmm. All right. So how did she get into the crime scene? Like, how did she get into the crime business?
That's something you're gonna have to find out in the pilot.
Okay, fair point. Fair enough. All right. My next question is, what is your favorite animation studio?
Probably Studio Ghibli. I feel like they're the most artistically rich and influential, and their stories are very sophisticated and risky. And most of their movies have a lot to say about the environment and relationship between man and nature. And they have very, you know, I mean, Miyazaki's films in particular have a lot of thematic grandeur that you can hardly see in other studios, and just the artistry and dedication. I mean, it's kind of hard to think of more vernaculars because, it's a world-renowned studio for a reason.
Yeah. And it's also worth pointing, it's also worth noting that they even came from another studio. Well, they came from the ashes of another studio, Topcraft, which was the studio that made Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, which Hayao
Yeah.
Miyazaki also directed.
Yeah, that's right.
And I always, and, Studio Ghibli was, uh, well, there's a lot of things to describe about Studio Ghibli. My first Studio Ghibli movie was Only Yesterday, if I'm remembering correctly. And
Yeah, it's Ghibli.
yeah, but I know that was not by Miyazaki. That was like by Isao Takahata, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they have different directors at Ghibli.
Yeah, like Hayao's son Goro.
Hayao Goro and Goro Miyazaki, Isao Takahata, they've, got like their whole department of storytellers, kind of like how Disney and Pixar have different directors.
Yeah, or Illumination and Blue Sky, or even
Yeah,
Sony Pictures Animation.
that's true.
Yeah. And on the topic of Studio Ghibli, I guess this is a good time to bring up topic because it's related to the Totoro studio in it's very related to the Totoro studio. But what is your stance on artificial intelligence and art?
Um, AI should be used to serve humans, not the other way around. What I mean to say is that it should be used for very menial tasks like retail and office work and customer service and not for the arts because that's where humans thrive the most. And when it's the other way around, like it sadly is today, you're pretty much heading us to the next stage of extinction.
Yeah. You know, I really just want to say that my stance on AI art is that, well, I'm not even gonna try it myself because for one thing, it doesn't really produce the most satisfying results just a prompt image, generating an image from a prompt. And even if the prompt did look good, even if it was even if prompt generation was even if generation from a prompt was flawless, I'd rather just pick up a pencil and just draw the dang thing myself. I mean,
Yeah,
it's almost like having somebody else do it. It's almost like having somebody else. It's almost like, commissioning somebody to do it and you're not satisfied with the results. You're just like, you know what? I'll do it myself. You know what I mean?
yeah, but even if, it produces a quote unquote good prompt, it's taking art from other artists because what it does is it uses its algorithm to study other people's pictures and videos and GIFs, and they would just take bits and pieces of that information and make up whatever it is that comes out at the end. So, so it's not really an original piece of work. It's literally just a Frankenstein thing, right?
Well, I mean, well, I have no response to that. I really have no response to that because because well, actually, I'm just dang it, my internet connection. You can still hear me, right? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yes, I can still hear you.
All right, all right. Yeah, yeah. I wanted to bring up, inspiration us human artists get from like, the world around us and art around us. I want to bring that up in the topic of, art in general, but I think that's a topic that could be discussed for like some other time.
Yeah.
And on the topic of AI art, it's also just, yeah, like I remember you saying it before. It it's not exactly, it generates a lot of energy, just like and
Yeah,
and I said
yeah,
that
it uses up a lot of energy that's actually destroying the environment. So that's another reason that I'm against it.
same with NFTs. That's a
Yeah.
that's why I'm against NFTs, you know?
Yeah.
And my final question is, what advice can you give to aspiring filmmakers, writers, and or animators? I happen to fit in I happen to fit in all three of those categories because like I want to do my own stuff, you know?
Yeah. I would say draw as much as you can, get out more, take classes, surround yourself with other artists and people who share the same passions as you do. Go to clubs, go to, coffee shops where they have art events, watch more classic movies, read books. And finally, this is the most important one, don't compare yourself to others.
Could you would you like to elaborate on that?
Oh, don't compare. Well, yeah, everybody has, so everybody kind of goes at their different pace in terms of how they master their craft. Like painting, for instance. I'm 33 and I just picked up painting as a hobby and I want to get better at it because I would like to, try to make a career out of that. But I'm not exactly there yet, even though there's a lot of teenagers and 20 something year olds who have already made, masterpieces and have already, you know, featured their stuff in galleries. But that's not really a reason for me to bemoan my own, progress because, everybody goes through this, life's too short to worry about stuff like that. You need to just kind of worry about your goals and, what are your limits? Are you enjoying this? Is this making you happy? Is this just worry about your own journey and you'll still make some great stuff and just don't worry about it.
All right. All right. And I guess I should ask one last question, even though the last question I asked was supposed to be the last one. You said that you would want to do an animated horror flick. I think it was animated that you put on Indiegogo, but I remember it was horror.
Yeah, I would love to do that someday. I feel like that horror is an area of animation that hasn't been fully explored as much, and I would like to see more of that, and I would like to play a part.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. Again, it was so nice to meet you. It was so nice to have you on this interview. And I wish you the best. I wish you the best for your pilot. I hope it
Thank
could
you.
come out soon. And yeah, best of wishes.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you. Thank you. I just really thank you.
Hey, my pleasure.